All right, let's get back to rent relief for the tenant and what you're going to be required to take in to the counseling program when you submit your paperwork. You're required to fill out that form that identifies your 25% and then what the overage is to renter's assistance. At that point, here's a checklist for you to go by. Are you eligible to apply for California COVID-19 relief? And it says at the top, tenant checklist. Are you struggling financially and seeking assistance for rent and or utilities for your primary residence? If you've been having a hardship in paying your rent, then you're going to check that box. Has anyone in the household experienced reduction or loss of income? So if your job gave you fewer hours, and most people were off from work in March and April, many of you returned back to work part-time or full-time, but then were subsequently maybe laid off, then that box would be for you. Has anyone in the household experienced reduction and or loss of income or incurred significant expenses or other financial hardships or qualified for unemployment benefits between April 1st, 2020 related to COVID-19? A lot of people were thinking because they got the unemployment money that they don't qualify. If you got the unemployment money, we know you weren't working, so it does help. You want to report that, so you check that box. Can anyone in your household demonstrate that they are either at risk of homelessness or housing instability is the term they're using now. Housing instability. I don't have a place to live. I'm staying with different people, different friends, trying to make ends meet, and it's called housing instability. Has the past due rent or utilities or is living in an unsafe living condition? So if you're living in an unsafe condition, perhaps in your car some nights, or you just don't have a stable home or place to go, then you would check that box. If you checked all of the above, you are eligible to apply. Before applying, you need the following items. All these items you're going to take into the consultation with the housing department or renter assistance people. To verify, all household members listed on the rental agreement must provide at least one proof of identity, a government issued birth certificate, driver's license, or your identification card. Everybody is eligible to go in and get a California ID. There is either a driver's license or a California ID. You should have one or both of those in your possession. Usually if you have a driver's license, you don't need the California ID. Employment identification card, you can bring that, marriage license certificate, or a certified divorce decree. Also your school records, particularly for your children. If you're saying you got 4 kids, their school identification records. Status as a full-time or degree or certificate granting institution. Only for household members 18 years and older is this required. Verifying your income. You need your IRS tax forms such as the 1099, 1040, 1040A, a Schedule C, earned and employment period or most federal income tax statements. So if you were issued one of those, there's also a form that you can fill out saying that you did not file any taxes for the year. W-2 form from an employer that you did work with your name and everything on it for at least 2 years, and increases can be accurately projected. Most recent paycheck stubs. Let's back up to that one. Let's say you worked part-time the year before, but you've been with that company for a number of years, then you would have W-2s to show that you worked there, say, over a 5-year period. So your W-2 or a 1099 or any type of check that you earn money from this particular employer that you work there, to show that there was a consistent or inconsistent pattern of work with them. Most recent paycheck stubs, 6 for weekly pay and 3 for bi-weekly pay, or semi-monthly. Some people, like teachers, only get paid once a month, so they would have one paycheck stub. Other people will get paid every 2 weeks. That would be your bi-weekly paycheck, and so on and so forth. Employer generated salary report or a letter stating current annual income. The employer can give you a statement that you work there, so that would be sufficient. Number 3, verify your residence. You're going to need that lease agreement again, or some kind of agreement that you had with the landlord or the person you're living with, that it was okay to live on that premises. Stating current annual income. Earning statements or current bank statements would verify income. Any of those items is fine. Verify, well, I did that one. I'm sorry, verify residence. So it's the lease agreement, official letter from a third party showing your name and address, which would be something that was given to you by a notary or have it filled out and notarized. Government issued library card, utility statements from gas company, light company, your cell phone bill, any of that that's showing your address and where you were living. Verify rent owed. A current lease signed by the applicant and landlord or sublessor that identifies the unit where the applicant resides and shows the rental payment amount. So it could be a lease, it could be a sublease, it could also be someone who's just renting you a room and they write out how much you were paying and that you were unable to pay, so that there's a running record. That's what they're looking for. If you don't have a signed lease, proof of rent and amount may include bank statement, check stub, proof, pretty much the same thing we went over when we talked about the landlord collecting their money and filing for it. Verify the utility payments owed and due, because this renter assistance is paying people's utility bills. So this is a great program to get a lot of things paid for that you've been unable to catch up on. Okay, we have another video that we'd like to show you, which talks about the moratorium and how all this plays out. It's entitled "The Supreme Court Strikes Down the Moratorium and the Eviction Ban," is specific to Los Angeles and California.
When the moratorium on evictions, both residential and commercial, ends in the city of Los Angeles, the regular monthly rent will be due in full and all protections will be gone. So if rent is not paid in full when it's due every month, landlords can take steps to begin the eviction process. If you are a residential tenant and were unable to pay the rent due to a COVID-19 related financial hardship, you have up to 1 year to repay it. And for commercial tenants, you have up to 3 months. If you get evicted or move out before those timeframes are up, the landlord can file a judgment against you for the unpaid rent. As for how the unpaid rent is to be paid back and on what schedule, that'll be up to the tenant and landlord to work out. Depending on how much rent was unpaid, paying it back in a year or 3 months may not be realistic. To state the obvious, just because the moratoriums were lifted, everything is back to normal. My mentor always says everything is negotiable in real estate. There's different negotiation tactics, but one thing is for sure, if there's been open and honest dialogue between tenant and landlord throughout the pandemic, especially from the tenant side, landlords will probably be more open to working out a repayment plan that's manageable for the tenant. Even though the ordinance calls for specific repayment timeframes, it doesn't mean a longer repayment plan can't be worked out. However, landlords have no obligation to go beyond those timeframes, and so the goodwill, or lack of it, will probably be a big factor in how things work out.
This program on September 30th to put on your door on October 2nd a 3-day notice to pay or quit. You are at this point back to paying your entire full month's rent. If you are unable to pay that, then you obviously need to get with them, start making arrangements on that 25% that you owe from March of last year, which equals about 20 months. So you first need to determine what is 25% of your rent, add that up, and present them with some type of conversation or agreement that the two of you can come to, how you will pay your rent in full and then add a portion every month, so that within, I think it's gonna be about 5 years. Let me clarify that. 5 years that you're gonna get to, with an arrangement. You know, they don't have to agree to this. They can take you to court, but if they're willing to work with you to keep you from having an eviction on your record, I think it's well worth it. Additionally, I would start looking at trying to buy my own place, because that's going to be something that you want to do. And with an eviction on your record, even renting another place, if you end up getting put out, it's going to be a major problem. Let's take a break. Thank you so much. My name is Rosslyn Butler. I'm Real Estate Network, and we're definitely here to help you, the client who has found themselves in a serious situation. Be sure and give me a call at 310-704-7140 or 424-306-1552. I am linked to several attorneys that will work with you to help you to work on an eviction if you're being put out. We have a lot of state programs that are available to help you. It's for the tenant, so that they don't get evicted and have that on their record. We will work with you to get paralegals if you don't have money to pay. Additionally, that help in this process. There's a lot of legal things that you are entitled to, and also things that you should have done on your own. So we want to make sure that you're aware of what your responsibilities were, and get that declaration filled out and signed and turned into the landlord.